Hi, this is a past life reading for client 10030. I've shuffled the deck quite a bit, but I'm just going to continue to shuffle until I feel it's time to stop. Okay. Now this is a large spread this way, so you're not going to see the top card, but I will hold it up for you. Ooh. All right, so the first card is your basic soul nature coming into this past life. And it is the Five of Swords. Holding on to. So you brought into. Sorry, here. See, it's a little. These aren't the prettiest cards in the world, but they speak to me, so that's why I use them for past life readings. There's some sort of enlightenment that you had. Some sort of thinking, the way that you thought, that you brought into the way, I don't know, your brain, the way that your brain works is because of this life right here, coming into here. We'll get more into it as we go. It's like, I just keep hearing, move on, move on. Your environment, King of Swords. You see that? Your environment was what are you doing? Tumultuous. There was a lot of very emotionally tumultuous. But it was like suppressed. It was like it was an environment where you had to sort of keep your emotions and keep your true thoughts contained. You weren't allowed to speak about how you felt. So there was a lot of emotional constriction. And it was primarily, I would say, by some sort of father figure. And it was also a very pack mentality, like we all think this way. And when you step out of line, it's not good. But you didn't step out of line because you couldn't. You were scared to, actually. So, your early years. Oh, the devil. The devil card. Now, people freak out about this card, but rebellious. To me, it was rebellion. It was like this. I see rebellion in this. Your early years, which is probably why you got into quite a bit of trouble. Because I think you were in a lot of trouble in this life. But young. Like, again, I feel like young was everything that happened in this past life happened to you at a very young age. And that is why, well, that's where we're at right now. Ooh, you had a very domineering father in this life that we're talking about. He was just in charge of more than just your family. It was almost like a church minister, is kind of what it feels like. Yeah, like, for an example, like a church minister that finds out their child is gay and they can't, but so therefore the child can't say, I'm gay because of this pack mentality. That's just an example, but this is the kind of energy that you brought into this life. So, your education, Ace of Swords. So yeah, very much, this is what we think. This is what we believe. It was drilled into you, these ideas, at such an early age. I'm going to stare into this because that's how I get my answers. I'm kind of a lone wolf. I mean, from the beginning, you knew you didn't really necessarily belong. You knew that there was something better, something further, not necessarily right here in this environment with all these people. Again, there's this rebellious spirit that keeps coming through. I got to move forward. I got to move on. That's great that you're an original thinker. There was original thought that came in, but it got you in a lot of trouble. I'm not sure if it got you killed, but we'll find out when we get to that. Now, of course, this is this life we're talking about, not yours right this second. This is this past life. Everything I've discussed so far is this past life, what you have brought with you into the human body that you have right this second. Oh. I'm in an apartment, so you might hear some horns and some stomping upstairs. Okay, so there we are. The next card is your accomplishments in this past life. Oh my God, what an ability, the Hierophant. People, oh, how terrifying. You had such an ability to get people to listen to what you were saying. This was such a threat to your father figure, to the Gazda, which means the man in charge. Could have been a woman, but I'm really getting a male energy. And with you, I'm getting sort of a male energy as well. Very young, though. I'm going to say you died super young in this life because I don't see you progressing. It's almost like a Jesus Christ, the Hierophant, which is the Holy Man card. Now, here you can see it's a little bit different, but it virtually means the same thing. Hierophant it's the Holy Man. It is the High Priest. It is the person who people go to for guidance. So you were starting to guide people in an opposite direction than, let's see, there you go. You were guiding people in an opposite direction than your father wanted you to. I mean, it's a big one. Your whole environment. I wouldn't be surprised if you were like starting the young people. You just have this, and I bet you have it now, this leadership ability that you can probably get people to do what you want and what, without really necessarily having to say it. You can sort of present the idea. And if this is a challenge you're going through right now, like if you're having relationship problems, and I mean more like friendships and groups of people, and maybe you're even trying to look for a group or whatnot, a subtle approach is best for you. But you know, actually, flip it. I'm gonna flip it because this isn't a past life reading. You were probably killed for being maybe too vocal in your past life, so you actually might not be speaking up like you should. But we'll get there. We'll see. We can clarify that as the cards tell me. Your occupation, the Prince of Staves. Yeah, I'm thinking you were really, really young. Staves are rods, so basically you were just a visionary messenger. You were Jesus Christ in your last life. No, I'm just kidding. But it sounds like it's very much just like, I mean, what you presented, people paid attention to. It's like you were an artist. You were an artist of sorts. There's definitely some sort of this new way of viewing things. A visionary, essentially. A message. You could deliver messages of your vision, and people would, and have people follow it out for you, follow out what you wanted, and it had, oh my God, even when I touch the Devil card over here, my throat closes up. So part of me thinks that maybe you had a little bit, you were just so constricted, you had to rebel. You had to break free. So I also wouldn't be surprised in this life if you get into relationships that become too constricting and you have to get out of them, because this is something that you've been through before, and it's probably a lesson that you have to learn now. If you feel restricted, you brought into this life this want, this desire to rebel, to get out. It's like, ooh, I mean, the tension in my body is outrage. Yes. So, yeah, just a visionary. Pretty fascinating, actually. So your social status. The Three of Sacred Circles. Well, you were a worker. You know. See that? I want to peek into this guy a little bit because he's calling for me. Your social status. Well, you kind of kept People came to you, kept to yourself a little bit. Oh God, it was almost like someone was like, you need to stay away from everybody. Like you were cast away. Not cast away because that's too, you had the ability to leave, to come and go as you please, but it was just safer for you to stay inside, to like keep it all contained, not preach it out. This one's perplexing a little to me. There's more information here that I want to get to the bottom of. You had a hard time, you certainly had a hard time telling your family the truth, telling your community the truth. It was really hard for you though, because there was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of pressure for you in this life. You felt trapped. You had a vision, but it was really hard for you to play it out. I also am starting to get like sort of if you were an artist in this life, artist is such a vague term, but like there's something that has to do with you doing your best work in solitude, as opposed to a group. I wouldn't be surprised if people take your ideas either. 8, relationships. 4 of sacred circles. Oh, you had a lot of imaginary friends. Well, like I said before, look, it's like you had to be home a lot. You were by yourself a lot. So your best friends were actually your imagination. I don't know if you're a writer, but you probably could conjure up some really fantastic stories. Because that's kind of what you did. You lived in your imagination, you know. It's just such a shame. It's not like you were, they didn't say you were banished. You were not banished. But you knew that you had to be alone to prevent what, though? To prevent what? From speaking the truth. It was like you couldn't speak. My throat keeps closing up, so it's like you couldn't speak your truth because it wasn't accepted, and that is such a shame. You wanted to rebel so much, but you were, oh my goodness me, but you were also so addicted to pleasing everyone because they listened to you. Oh, I understand. I totally understand this. My heater kicked on. It's hissing very loud. I don't know if that's the word. Whew. So yeah, most of your friends were imaginary friends, but I don't think they were actually quite so imaginary. You were very in touch with your spirit guides in this life. Imagination. I mean, where do you draw the line between what's an imaginary friend versus what is, a vision, like a true, like, because it shows here, like, there's this visionary card here, so it leads me to believe these two in conjunction together leads me to believe that it was more than just having imaginary friends and an active imagination. It was like you really actually made contact with, whatever word you like. Angels, spirit guides, animal totems, whatever. There probably was an animal totem, actually. I think maybe a bear. So yeah, your family life, the 5 of Cups, there was a lot of turmoil, emotional turmoil in your family. Mainly because your dad would just like, he just wasn't having it. He could not open up. And everyone was always trying to please the father figure. But I gotta tell you, he was a little bit depressed. He was like a depressed person. But he had to be so strong, so it was double hard for him. Double. This is the spilled milk card. Don't cry over spilled milk, because you can see, where is it? Up here. There's a little spilled milk up there. Well, it's wine, which is better. So that's your family. Your death. Ooh, God. So powerful, the magician. Magician is such a powerful card. And there's so many different stories that could be told from this, so I want to just peek into it for a minute and see what I get. You were not, no, I mean, I feel like, oh, this is a toughie. Who's that? Who is that? There's, it's some sort, it's so funny. There's an animal. I feel like there's an animal involved, and I don't know what it means, but there's certainly an animal. It's big. I never get that with this card in this deck. It was during the day. It was definitely a wild animal. But you didn't fight it. That's the weirdest thing, is like you just sort of let it take you. Whew. On a lighter note, this guy's headband is hilarious. Look at that. It's amazing. But I feel like, again, there's this, the infinity sign. It was almost like you knew in your last moments that it was okay to go. Probably because you've been communicating with your guides and whoever. Oh, it was really sad though. It was sad, like, oh yeah, there's it's a lot of emotion. But then it just like it all goes to black. So it was very quick. It was super quick. But there's definitely this animal presence in here too. So obviously this life wasn't from like the 1960s. We're looking at more like another country, first of all. Definitely it was another country. And it seems like someplace tropical, and like where there is a jungle. So I mean, this could be like Thailand. I mean, this could be, I don't know exactly where, but definitely there's jungle. It was almost a relief. This is awful to say, but it was almost a relief when you died for yourself. Like you were just like, I can't do it anymore. You were young. You were adolescent, 14, 15. You didn't make it past then. Yeah. So the lessons that you learned in this life here. Three of Cups. Well, there's Dad again. There's a lot of resentment in this card. So sad. What did you learn from all that sadness? Your father was so sad. I feel like you learned from this card and from what I've seen, it feels like there's a lot of emotional, even you learned a lot about mental illness. I don't want to say, I hate saying mental illness, but I don't know, this is not a time for opinion session. Depression, emotional imbalance. I think you were treated like you were emotionally imbalanced, but you weren't at all emotionally imbalanced. You just thought differently than other people. So along those lines, big theme, you probably learned a lot about, prejudice and the way in people casting, what's that called? Projection. There's a lot of projection that was put on you that honestly wasn't even true. You just thought differently. You had a visionary sense. But your dad was just, you have to understand that in this past life, your dad was so unhappy that there was absolutely, I don't even know, I haven't seen anything about your mother. And that, honestly, that makes sense to me. She probably died early, or maybe even in childbirth with you, because she's nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. It's basically just your father. There's all this fatherly stuff. But you did have a sibling. Your sister. Yeah, boom, sister, no doubt. So interesting. No mother. I mean, there's not a mother here. This Hierophant card still, I want more from that. All right, so the another lesson you learned during this life was the Two of Swords. I love this card. Looking into the horizon. Like this is a card of choice. Choice in how we think. You realized in this past life that there is actually a choice. You don't have to go with the grain. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing and think, this group mentality mindset. But there are consequences, But I do think that you broke free of it, but you just could never really break free of it. You were too young. And it was a primitive place. But you've definitely brought this into your life where you're like, I don't have to think like everybody else. I've already gone through, like if you're wasting time with what other people think and going with the grain, then it's time to stop because you've already learned this lesson. You've already learned that you've already been forced into solitude, died early, essentially a mentally ill parent. And I don't think he was like leader of the land, but I think that he was, in this tribe or whatever it was, he was definitely a devout follower. He was not a leader. He was a devout follower. So for you not to follow the path, it was all about him. It looked bad on him. But you realize then you have a choice. Like, you have a choice in this. So, how this past life affects you in this body that you have right now is this, Seven of Cups. You understand the options. Look at all the options in those cups. You've been so constricted in this past life, and I'm assuming a few other ones. You understand that you have so many choices and options, how this affects you. I don't know if you understand it, but you have so many options. You really have the ability to put your heart into one thing and make it happen. There's a lot of magic in the Seven of Cups to me, and the only problem is, the darker shadow side of this card is delusion. You can become very delusional and living in like a fog. But as long as there's action behind it, you'll be good. You've chopped up quite a few lives and a lot of lessons. Basically enough so that when you have decided and you do decide what it is that you want, you actually have the tools at hand to do it. If you just trust your gut, trust your instincts. All right, and the other one is, the Six of Swords. I love the Six of Swords. It's so peaceful. Okay, I want to look into this guy to find out this lesson. Oh, of course, duh. These guys go together to me. You're not afraid of solitude actually isn't something that that should scare you because you've done it before. And if you're not a writer, you should write something, or a journal, something, anything, because you have accessed parts of your imagination that perhaps you don't even realize. If you sit down and work with that energy, I think you'll be able to really bring out some radical things. So many different lands. So many choices. You have so many choices in this life. So many things have happened. This life is one thing, but you've lived quite a few lives that you have options. You inherently will know what to do if you just let your instincts take over. I have this feeling with the Prince of Staves rods here in the middle. Oh, and this is going to sound way out there. But I feel like the life you're actually living right now and the goals that you have were originated in this here life. With you received the visionary message in this life. Whew. But you couldn't act out on it. But now you can. That's the thing. Now you can act out on this vision. Which is thinking differently. Setting, thinking out. This is outside the box thinking. So basically, let's talk about now. You have permission to think outside the box. You have permission to break the rules a little bit. Because it's what you have to do. It's what you have to do to get what you want right now. Going with the grain, following everyone is not going to do you any favors right now. It is so important for you to trust your heart and your guts and your brain and every other, I just wanted to, you understand what I'm saying. But it's super duper important. You almost had it too, and you got scared. I'm telling you. That's why this thing with the animal, it's like you knew exactly what you were doing. The magician doesn't necessarily make mistakes. He's a trickster. So while you probably looked to everyone, including your father, that there was this accident, and you went in the jungle, and you got killed. Again, it's like by a bear. You foresaw this death is what's so crazy to me. It wasn't an accident. You did it. You were like, there was probably, if you're fighting a bear, you're not going to be like, well, I can probably win. No, chances are against a bear, you're going to lose. But you didn't even fight, is what I'm saying. You were just like, well, this is how it ends. Because you knew. But that's the thing, you knew. You were like, all right, whatever. Time to go. These are all things that I do believe, I'm not saying you could have won against the bear, but I'm saying you could have fought enough to get, I don't think you had to die. I don't think you had to die by that bear. So I'm saying, and you don't have to roll over and die for anything that's happening now that seems like it has to be like this way or this way. Perfection, it is supposed to be like this, and this. It does not. I'm encouraging you not to make it like this, and this. Think outside the box. And don't be afraid to access your emotions, like the dark emotions that you don't show everybody. Because they're going to be a really big asset. You're very protected, still, no doubt. I want to look, again, I'm going to go back to this Hierophant card. Just because relationship. To me, it kind of shows that you just already came into this life, jungle life, and it wasn't your first time. You'd already been around, but you really weren't sure how to get out, like what you were doing there, what it was supposed to be. It was all very confusing. It's like when you get deja vu when you're a kid and you don't know what deja vu is. You just think, oh God, it's like time folds. But again, but that's what I'm saying. You probably started talking about things like that and people were like, what? What the hell is that? Especially your father. You said it to the wrong, no, I'm not saying deja vu, but whatever you said that sounded off track, you said it to the wrong person, not to your father, but to someone who told the main guy, and then your father heard about it and was like, I don't know who you think you are, we think this way. Okay. So, how do you recap something like this? I'm not sure I can. I feel like I've given you a lot of information, and you'll have to probably watch this twice. I'm just going to see if there's any other thing that I feel coming out of the end. You're definitely stronger for this life. It sort of formed your habitual way of thinking in this one. Oh, so funny because the resentment during that life towards your father was unbelievable because everyone thought he was so fantastic. And you were like, he's not actually. And this father also could be someone in your life right now. And it doesn't have to be your dad at all. But if there was that much of a connection, it could be a friend. It could be, what's it called? A spouse, a mate, a partner, a pet even. I mean, with all this stuff, who knows? But they're here now. Just know that they're just sad. Like they're just sad. They can't do what you can do. They can't think outside the box. They're actually probably a little envious of you. All right, okay. So that's enough. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to email me. And thank you again for purchasing, and yay. Have a wonderful day.